Welcome back, guys, and today I'm going to be talking about a new release, and this one is Terrifier 3. My girlfriend and I just got back from seeing it, and wow. Terrifier 3 is a Christmas horror movie and is once again directed by Damien Leone and is starring LaVera as Sienna and then David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. Art the Clown is set to unleash havoc on the unsuspecting residents of Miles County as they peacefully drift off to sleep on Christmas Eve. So Terrifier 3 takes place 5 years after the second movie took place, and I'm a huge fan of these Terrifier movies. I love that each one tries to top the other one in its gore factor and its production design and its display of makeup effects and blood effects. Damien Leone is one of the true modern slasher directors and horror directors in general that I love to see him rising and getting more traction with these movies because he's worked his ass off for it, and his whole team has. Terrifier 3 feels very cinematic and it feels like a real movie. That's what my girlfriend and I were talking about when we got out of the movie theater, and it's funny because the second movie, the production design was a little bit better, but you still had some shots that didn't necessarily look the most cinematic, and you could kind of tell that it was still independent and lower budget. And the first movie even more so, but this one looks like the budget was crazy high, and David Howard Thornton is the best he's ever been as Art the Clown here. He is super expressive with his face, and I feel like the makeup just makes him look a little meaner and more aggressive here. He definitely looks more demonic. He's very depraved, very sadistic in this one, even more so than he has been. In the other two movies, it felt like he was a little less serious, but this one, he goes places that I wasn't really expecting him to go. Guys, I'm going to start going into some major spoilers for the movie, so if you're going to go see the movie Terrifier 3, go see it. I highly recommend it. Support this movie. So, the first 10 minutes of this movie, I kept hearing so much buzz about it, how it was being hyped as the most insane thing that Damien Leone has done in the franchise so far, that really sets the tone for the rest of the movie. And so I had these high expectations going into it. And so basically Art the Clown goes into this family's home dressed as Santa Claus, and he just kills them. But I think what was so controversial here is that he kills a little boy, and you know, we'd never seen him really like kill children before. It's shown off screen, but you just hear it in the background, and then you see like body pieces afterwards, but that's what seemed to be the more controversial part. And then we go backwards to 5 years prior, where it starts where Art ended in the second movie, where he's in the hospital, or at least his head is, with Vicky, and Chris Jericho's there for some reason, and he's one of the guards, which is kind of funny. So Art and Vicky escape this like mental institution, right? And then they go into this abandoned building, and Vicky like slits her wrist in this nasty ass bathtub, and Art goes to sleep, I guess, in this rocking chair, and I guess for 5 years, they're just kind of resting. So these two guys come in and they basically like awaken them, and they're evil, and they come back to life and are stalking LaVera again as Sienna. And she does a really great job too as one of the most badass final girls we've gotten in a slasher movie since Neve Campbell in Scream, in my opinion. Jonathan is also back here, and the actor, I forgot what his name is, but he does a great job here. Him and Sienna have an interesting relationship now. It's kind of strained, and he's kind of distant from her, whereas she's very traumatized from the experience. He's kind of trying to suppress it. In the second movie, he was all about Art the Clown, and then she was like, dude, like, stop being so weird. But you could really see the trauma that has been inflicted on her and Jonathan, and it comes across in some emotional parts of the movie that we weren't expecting. And also her relationship with Gabby and then her aunt and uncle was actually very sweet, and something that I wasn't expecting to kind of pull at the heartstrings, especially for what happens later on in the movie. This movie had such a good pace to it. It had a very fast pace, unlike the second movie where I felt like it dragged at points and kind of just kept on going, where it could have just been cut out a little bit or cut down. But this movie I felt like was perfectly paced. Everything kept hitting the right beats. The kills in this movie were crazy. It felt like Art the Clown had every weapon you could possibly use ever. A chainsaw, he had an axe, he had liquid nitrogen, and he had a hammer, he had a tube that he like shoved in this woman's mouth, and rats went in it. It was disgusting. Art pisses on Santa's lap in the bar, and the guy starts freaking out and then try to throw him out, and he basically just like shoots two of them, and then Santa Claus, he like strips him and then ties him up to a chair and uses liquid nitrogen on him to freeze his limbs, and then beat them off. That sounded wrong. Hammer them off, and then he rips his beard off and wears it. And then there is a mall scene where a bunch of kids are lined up to see Santa and take pictures with him. Art comes in and pretends to be Santa, and all the kids are like going up to him because he's giving out these free gifts. And I guess in these gifts, or in one of them at least, there was an explosive, and it blows up a good chunk of the mall, killing like 6 children. And I think maybe that's why people were saying this was the most controversial of the Terrifier movies. There is literally a scene in this movie where these two people are having sex in the shower, right? And Art is like just rocking a piss over to the side there, goes into his little treasure bag of weapons and pulls out a huge chainsaw, and then goes over to the stall that they're showering in and just starts going to town. And you know, he does his thing with the girl in the shower, you know, chops her all up into pieces, and her face is like falling off and she's like blinking. But the crazy part about this scene is with the guy, he rips both of his legs off, and then proceeds to put the chainsaw up his ass, and then he flips him around and then just chainsaws him in half from his balls to his mouth, I guess. And you're just sitting there like, the production design was crazy good, the acting was crazy good, the lighting was actually probably what helped it look very cinematic in the first place. The lighting and the shot composition just looked so filmic and professional. The music had similar themes from the second movie, taken and redone here, but they also had some Christmas themes thrown in there with the creepy remix to it. The 80s synth score that they go for with these Terrifier movies, I'm just a huge fan of, and it sounded so good here, especially in the more intense scenes. I am a huge fan of the pairing of Christmas and horror, and putting those together like Black Christmas is one of my favorites in that subgenre. And Krampus is kind of alright. I wouldn't prefer to watch it, but this is probably at my number one now for Christmas horror movies. I'm kind of desensitized to all the violence that I'm like, you know, I could understand why this is like messed up, but I feel like nothing like grosses me out too much, you know? I was expecting a lot worse, I feel like, from this movie, but that doesn't mean I was disappointed at all. It delivered on all fronts. It had some very creative kills that I was not expecting. I would have never have even thought of, probably. They go in for Terrifier 4, hopefully 5, 6, 7. I could see Terrifier movies for a long time. This is a franchise that I'm really invested in now, and I think Damien Leone is doing a great job with it. So if you guys get the chance, please go see Terrifier 3 in theaters, because this is a great Halloween movie to go see right now. I'm going to give this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode of 31 Days of Horror.